Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Hare Krishna, Gauranga Nityananda. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namayo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prestaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Chandra ki jai. Shri Gora something. What? Nitai Chaitanya ki jai. Lakshmi Nrsimha ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Who else ki jai? Vamandev ki jai. All the devotees ki jai. Giriraj? Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Prasadam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. I wanted to read a famous verse from the second canto. It's a verse about Bhava. And if you don't have Bhava when you chant Hare Krishna, it means, not you, us, it means our heart is still framed. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. So that's another song for you songwriters. Still framed heart. Steel framed heart. You know that verse? Still framed heart verse. Thank you. Wow, this is so strange. The Veda base. Why it doesn't come up with it? You put the words of the verse and it doesn't come up. The verse doesn't come up. Why? Who knows the verse? 2.3.24. 2.3.24. Yes. This means they had steel during the time of Bhagavatam, right? But we have any Sanskrit scholars? Ashma Sharam, steel framed. Ashma, that's steel framed. So they had steel. We're not that advanced. Tadashma Sharam Hridayam Patedam Ya Griham Anhaya Harinama Dhyay Navikriye Tata Yada Vikaro Netra Jalam Gatra Ruheshu Harsha. Should we do the word meanings? So we go deeper. Let's do the word meanings. This is for those of you who want this verse, 2.3.24. 2.3.24. Tat, that. Ashma Sharam is steel framed. Hridayam, heart. Bhatta, idam, certainly that. Yet, which. Griyamanai, in spite of chanting. Harinama, the holy name of the Lord. Dheyai, by concentration of the mind. Na, does not. Vikriyeta, change. Ata, thus. Yada, when. Vikaraha, reaction. Netre, in the eyes. Jalam, tears. Gatra ruheshu, at the pores. Harshaha, eruptions of ecstasy. Certainly, that heart is still framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change, even when one displays such signs of transformation as tears in the eyes and ecstatic standing of the hairs on end. Now, by reading the verse, it doesn't seem to make sense because it's like contradictory. It says you're concentrating and you're exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. But the heart doesn't change. That's the key. Everything seems to be right, but there's no change in the heart. So that means the heart's like steel or stone. We should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed. And a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God, through the material manifestations of his energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as a supersoul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely, gradual development, worship of the superior that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal supersoul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They're all nicely described in the second chapter, but in the third chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship or pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. So, now because of the mercy of Mahaprabhu and the mercy of Prabhupada, we don't really have to go through all these stages. We just go from the bottom floor to the top floor, taking the elevator, right? And so if the elevator is chanting of Hare Krishna, takes you right to the top. So you don't have to do all these processes. This thing here, you meditate on, well, there's so many things you can do. You've probably seen more than I have. But the third canto, now it's talking about the more direct process, hearing and chanting. We were talking a few days ago about how religion can be very ritualistic. And you can think you've done the process perfectly by externally executing it perfectly, but the heart may not be in the right place. So now this paragraph and this verse is talking about the condition of the heart as the real barometer of your success in spiritual life, not just the external execution. Because you can do things perfectly externally, and your heart could be somewhere else, right? Or your heart can still be hard. So this is the second paragraph. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of a living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. At one time, in a lecture, Prabhupada was very blunt. He said, you can tell how you're advancing by how much you're losing interest in sex. So that's like an internal calculation. Everyone has a sex odometer in them. So you can feel the attachment or you can feel the detachment. And of course, the sexual desire is the center of material enjoyment in It's like everything is connected to it. That's the hub. So naturally, when that desire is lessened, all the desires connected with it are lessened. So detachment is a general way in which you monitor your spiritual progress. So Prabhupada says here, detachment and a desire to serve, they go together. You want to get desire to serve without detachment. Now sometimes you have to be detached to be able to focus on service. So sometimes detachment may be forced. But as we read a few days ago, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojita Janayati Asu Bharyam Gyanam Jaya Adahaitukam. We understand detachment comes from bhakti, but if you don't have detachment, how do you get bhakti? So it's like a little bit of a circular, right? So, but just because you forcefully detach doesn't necessarily mean you have bhakti. It just means you forcefully detach. But when you have bhakti, you will naturally detach. Just like a devotee asked Prabhupada, can I think of Krishna Lila, or should I think of Krishna Lila when I chant? And Prabhupada said, if it's natural, yes. If it's artificial, no. It was kind of like, should I detach from this? If it's natural, yes. If it's artificial, no. Of course, there's certain things we have to detach from. But we talked about artificial detachment, didn't we? Yes? Did we have a few classes on artificial detachment? Yes. So if you're executing your bhakti and you're becoming more materially attached, something's wrong. Or if you're becoming attached to being detached, something's wrong. Because that's another attachment. Sometimes we're attached to being detached from things we shouldn't be detached from, and that's an attachment. Did I confuse you? Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Like maybe irresponsible in some way. Detaching from something I should do, I don't want to do. I have a duty, and I'm very detached from my duty, and Krishna's telling Arjuna, do your duty. No, I'm detached. I'll be a Brahmin. No, you'll incur sin if you act as a Brahmin. Go kill, and there'll be no sin. Renounce, and there'll be sin. It's like, what is that all about? No, you're attached to being detached, and you have to become detached from being detached and be attached to your service. So we don't want to be detached we don't want to be attached to being detached, unless the detachment is proper, in line with instructions of Guru and Krishna. Or, yes. Vidhi bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, the legs, as already explained here. And Jagannath Swami ki jai. Nitai Chaitanya ki jai. Sri Krishna Chandra. Radha Krishna Chandra ki jai. Vamana Dev ki jai. Giriraj Swami. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Lakshmi Nrsimha ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji ki jai. Jagannath Das Babaji ki jai. Sadguru Swamis Prabhu ki jai. Panchatattva ki jai. Who's left? Parshuram. Where? Where? Parshuram ki jai. Why Parshuram? Today is a special day, or always? Why? Because?
Advised by probably Shyam Singh.
What?
Advised by Shyam Singh.
To protect you?
Show the purpose.
Oh. Protection? Vidhi bhakti is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If you do devotional service, then we're going to put you up to a screen test. And we're going to examine your heart. Okay, we have any volunteers? We're going to put the screen up and the x-ray, and it's going to examine your heart, and we're going to see what's in it. And then we're going to find out who is a real devotee and who is a sham, who is just pretending. Any volunteers to show us your heart? I'll read that again. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel frame, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. That's a depressing sentence, isn't it? If you fall in that category. I'll read that again just to increase your depression. And so maybe it will be an impetus. The depression will become an impetus. The next sentence, I'll read both. The next sentence will also reinforce your depression. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. That's expected. That should happen if you're taking your medicine, doing your exercise, taking the diet, the disease should be cured. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember, well, that's why Mahaprabhu said, Durdayavam idisham iha janina raga, because I'm chanting, and I'm so unfortunate there's no rag. I'm Durdaivam. Iha jani na anuraga. There's no rag that's being born in me when I chant. So how unfortunate I am. Of course, that's not true. Mahaprabhu exhibited all the rag, right? All the bhava. But taking the part of conditioned soul, he's teaching us how we should feel. I'm so unfortunate. I have no taste. Krishna, please give me a taste. Please help me become sincere. Please melt my heart. Jai Jagannath. O holy name of the Lord, please melt this steel-framed heart that is hardened by materialism for many lifetimes, hardened by sense gratification, hardened by selfishness, hardened by envy and jealousy and resentment and all those ugly things. Please, please, please melt my heart. But this analogy is given that the pure devotee, the heart is like gold, not like steel. Because gold melts. We have any people dealing with gold here? Gold melts quite easily. It's soft metal. Steel, I don't know if it ever melts. I mean, it must, right? At a higher temperature. Right? So the heart of a pure devotee is like gold, it melts easily. Sometimes it's even compared to butter. Or butter, how do you say it here? Butter, how do you say it? Butter. It melts like butter. Butter melts. I was giving a lecture the other day. Where was it? Somewhere. The devotees couldn't understand me, so I just spoke like that. And then they understood everything. I'm speaking like that. You take some butter and it melts. But you take steel, it does not melt. And they could understand everything. And I speak in my English, what you call an accent, and I couldn't understand anything. Funny, huh? What to do? So, These are natural consequences. What is a natural consequence? Oh, we must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactionary ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the Bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of God. Now, something very interesting, because we're reading about Bhava, and for many of us, that seems like a foreign land or another planet in another universe. Isn't it? I mean, we have Bhava for, pizza or something, but, Bhava for Krishna, that's like, wow. But, interestingly, as you know, sometimes Prabhupada said, chant and dance in ecstasy. Oh, there's a lecture, Rath Yatra in San Francisco. Chant and dance in ecstasy of love of God. He's talking to Americans and he said, the whole world will follow you. So there's this idea of ecstasy, and Prabhupada's telling a brand new audience that you can chant and dance in ecstasy. Like, what's that about? Bhava's like preliminary stage of love of God. That's way beyond an Nartha Vritti. That's like Nartha Vritti is like, that's light years away. And now you're in Bhava, and he's telling these new people, chant and dance in ecstasy. Can a new person chant and dance in ecstasy? And can they feel ecstasy? Can they feel some kind of Bhava? And the answer is, yes, they can. That's the power and mercy of the Mahamantra. It doesn't mean when they stop chanting, they're going to still feel it. It just means that while they were chanting, they got that mercy and they felt some ecstasy. So, when the devotees came to India and they went to Surat, maybe you know the story, but you could imagine, Surat, pious place. So then the white elephants come out, the white American devotees, which no Indian had ever seen before. And all of a sudden, the white elephants are doing kirtan, and the people are going crazy. Americans are chanting Hare Krishna. They're wearing tilak, dhoti, kurta, sari, choli, and they're jumping up and down. The people went crazy. The people are coming out, garlanding the devotees, touching their feet, and the devotees were. They'd never seen such a thing, because the only garland you get in America is an egg in the face when you go out. That's all they ever got. Or somebody pouring water on your head, or bumping into you or something like that. That's like how some Americans would treat us. And then these people are garlanding the devotees. So they're going crazy. You can imagine, right? They're going crazy in the kirtan. It's building up. And the newspaper reporter, he wrote an article. Said the Hare Krishna, American Vaishnavas, they were chanting and dancing in ecstasy. That's what he wrote. I don't know if he saw the ecstasy or the devotee said, we're in ecstasy. But that's what he wrote. I mean, to me it sounds like the devotee said. They said, what are you doing? He said, we're chanting and dancing in ecstasy. Because that's what Prabhupada would say, and we actually would feel that, When you're jumping up and I don't know if you want to call it Bhava, but it's better than LSD, I can tell you that. Better than sex, better than LSD, and better than alcohol. So it's the closest thing we know to ecstasy, right? So someone read the article, another Gaudiya Vaishnava, and he wrote a letter and he said, the stage of ecstasy is Bhava. And Bhava comes after Asakti, which comes after Ruchi, which comes after Nishtha, which comes after Nartha Vritti, which comes after Bhajana Kriya. So these people, they're all neophyte Vaishnavas, newly beginning, so they're just Bhajana Kriya. I mean, give them some credit in Nartha Vritti, but probably not even that far. Yeah, they're just Bhajana Kriya. What to speak of Bhav? So this is a wrong description. that they were chanting and dancing in ecstasy, because it's not possible that neophyte could be experiencing Bhava. So they read the article to Prabhupada, and he listened. And all he said is, no, we were in ecstasy. That was his answer. We were in ecstasy. So what was he saying? He wasn't saying, no, you're all on the stage of Bhava, but at least during that kirtan, we were experiencing Bhava. And Prabhupada said of some of his devotees that had so much attachment to the deity, he said they have Bhava. He didn't say they're on the stage of Bhava, but he said they had Bhava. So you can have Bhava and not have it later. That's bhajana kriya, yeah. We're not vritti. You can yo-yo with Bhava. You're dancing in the kirtan and go home and your wife yells at you and then you can cry, lose your Bhava. Complaining you came back too late, your Bhava goes away. But there is a stage when it doesn't go away. But Prabhupada wasn't saying we're on that stage, but he was saying we're experiencing it. So that's amazing, isn't it? That someone right off the street could experience Bhava. But there is that potential that someone could very quickly go to the stage of Bhava if they have enough past devotional credits and enough mercy and sincerity. It's possible. If you read Jaiva Dharma, you find, devotees meet their guru, they go home, they chant for a week, and they 64 rounds. Oh, we decided to do 128 tonight. We couldn't sleep, and But that's obviously it's rare, but it could happen. It's possible, and it's supposed to happen. So at least we should be feeling something. Like when you're chanting, we're not saying you're going to experience, hair standing on end and tears flowing out of your eyes like hoses, rolling on the ground and so forth. But something, you should feel something, don't you think? Something more than what time is prasadam? Hare Krishna, what time is prasadam? When we were young devotees, we'd get up early, and it was like, by the second half of the japa period, it was all about breakfast, There was no meditation on Krishna, it was just like pakoras, halava, we were young men and we were hungry. That was just a reality, right? Or maybe by Bhagavatam class. So that was quite of a highlight. That was a highlight for us. But we should be feeling something, that's the point. And if we're not feeling something, there is a reason, which should be explained in this verse. And it's also explained by something else I will read. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. Not due to offenses, but due to offenses only. This is yes. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. The Bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing of the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. And here's something funny. The first piece of literature I got was a pamphlet called On Chanting Hare Krishna. I don't know if you have that pamphlet here. It's like 5-6 pages. And it described these symptoms. And I used to meditate and think, I'm almost there. I'm just about, it's like I'm on the verge of experiencing this. It was interesting that an introductory pamphlet would describe ecstasy. Isn't that interesting? The stages of Bhava. It was describing Mahaprabhu experiencing these stages and these, I guess I was thinking, because of all my experiences with drugs, that was something like this was going on, and I would just replace the drugs with chanting and have the same visions and experience. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. So, one thing we can say is that, well, let me explain. You know the devotional service begins with Shraddha. Adho Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Like there's a whole progression. And so sometimes Prabhupada says that it's a progression of faith. It's a thickening of faith. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he gives it a different angle and says it's a progression of bhava. So when you begin devotional service, you start with a little bhava. And then sadhu sangha, is it more, a little more bhav? Bhajana Kriya is a little more bhav. Anartha Nivritti, more bhav, there's more bhav there. So there's more emotion, there's more feeling. And when you get to bhava, then the full bhav is there. Then you've reached it. So devotional service is bhav, and it just manifests. But each, as it manifests to the next level, it's given a name. Something else other than bhav. But the bhav is increasing. So, therefore, we can say we should feel something. Yes? There should be some bhav. Right? You agree? Some bhav. Right? Bhavananda. Of course, bhavananda means one who enjoys the material world. Because bhava also means existence. Well, bhava as ecstasy and bhava as material existence. That's something different. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami has treated them very critically. Sometimes all of the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees. I just heard a story. Some man came into Prabhupada's room. And Prabhupada was with some godbrothers, and he started rolling on the ground. Ah! And one of Prabhupada's disciples came, and he spoke Bengali, and speaking to this man in Bengali, basically got him out of the room. And Prabhupada was with his godbrother. They were just laughing at this whole scene, his disciple pulling this person who was, like inappropriately trying to show off. And they were he took him out of the room, and after he took him out of the room, Prabhupada and his godbrother was laughing. Half the reason they were laughing is because he spoke Bengali, which, an American speaking Bengali was like the 8th wonder of the world or something. But what Prabhupada's talking about, it's not something we ever saw in America, except actually we would only see it with Indians. Americans wouldn't do that, because if you were an American doing that, everybody would think you were crazy, and they'd call an ambulance and take you to the mental hospital. But the Indian, so anyway, you may know the story. One man came to the temple, he was doing that. Devotees had no idea what to do. Is it real? Is he really, stage of bhava, maybe prema? So, Prabhupada's amazing, fearless, and he's got a solution for every problem. Prabhupada, what to do? He said, kick him in the head. If he's actually experiencing bhava, it won't bother him at all. He won't even know what hit him. So that's the test of bhava. When any devotee is experiencing ecstasy, you just kick him in the head. And if he doesn't feel anything, but it's the real thing. There's actually an amazing story that in the early days of the movement, Gaur Govinda Maharaj with a bunch of devotees, went to Mayapur, and he got very sick. And he was just like really out of it. And they brought him to a doctor, and the doctor said Bhava. He was manifesting Bhava. Coming to Mayapur, he manifested Bhava. He wasn't sick at all. But it looked to all the devotees like he was sick. Isn't that amazing? And Lord Chaitanya, when he took the holy name, he manifested Bhava. And he went back to his guru and said, Gurudev, what kind of mantra did you give me? It has made me crazy. And the guru was saying, how to make you crazy? What are the symptoms? This, rolling on the ground, screaming, tears. And the guru was like, oh my God, you got it. We've never seen this before. We've only read about it. And you actually have it. This is amazing. Like that. So, in Chaitanya Charitamrita it said the devotees would chant like madmen. That was like a symptom because, ladies, let's say you fall in love with some guy. And then you find out he's got a girlfriend. Oh my God. How depressing is that, right? And you manifest all the symptoms of Bhava. So it happens in this world. It does happen. Yes? Definitely. The pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was once asked, what is a good kirtan leader? Like, what does it look like? And he said, one who's more humble than a blade of grass. He's the best kirtan leader. And sometimes devotees, and Prabhupada's saying, well, they show all the symptoms of ecstasy, but follow them around and see what they do. At one time, the devotee said, Prabhupada, there's so many people complaining about us because in America there was a lot of bad propaganda. And Prabhupada said, invite them to the temple and live with us. Let them see how we live. And they'll see that we're pure. This is not fake. It's the real thing. And then sometimes devotees ask me, they say, well, there's like a big kirtan festival, and they say, well, what did you think of that kirtan leader? Is he good? And I just say, follow him around and see what he does after kirtan. And if he's Hare Krishna, that was a good kirtan. And if not, if something else happens that's not so Krishna conscious, maybe that wasn't the best kirtan. Right? So that, there's supposed to be a symptom if you're actually, how do you know you're actually chanting or he's actually chanting? Well, look at the result. What are the symptoms? Right? It should show. Something should wear off, right? But the pseudo-symptoms are once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. So, the problem is, you can chant Hare Krishna, but not chant Hare Krishna. So, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, and I'm thinking, I am amazing. I am fantastic. I am so special. Just look at me. So am I chanting Hare Krishna? No. What am I chanting? I'm chanting, look at me. Basically, right? I mean, you could, like we were saying the other day, if you translate the mantra, there's a mood to the mantra. Krishna, I'm down here, and I want to be up here, and I don't know how to get up here unless you help me. That's the mood. Correct? If I'm chanting thinking, I'm so great, I can sing so well, etc., then I'm really chanting, I'm so great. I'm not really... And I'm using the holy name as a vehicle to glorify myself. What could be worse than that? Right? I mean, talk about offenses. It's one thing to be inattentive, it's another thing to use the holy name for your sense gratification. That's almost like the seventh offense in some way, isn't it? It's sort of that nature. Right? So that's a big offense. Krishna, come over here. We have to talk. I'm going to use you to become famous. I'm going to use you to attract all the ladies. It's my beautiful singing. Right? Yes? Possible, right? Very possible. And it does happen. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above-mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated. And for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet, if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. So you have to give up sin. Let me read something to you that relates to this. I think I have it up here in Word, ready to go. Yes, okay, I just have to find it. And I think we actually read this the other day. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. If the desire to accumulate wealth, enjoy the association of women, name and fame, to cheat others, and to seek victory over, I have defeat, over defeat, maybe it's enemies, exist in one's heart, that will naturally make one indifferent to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Why is that? Because the holy name of the Lord is asking for the very opposite, right? So, if you want all these things, how could you chant sincerely? Because it becomes a contradiction to where your heart is, right? So you become indifferent. And indifference is the part of 10th offense. Laziness, indifference, apathy. Those are all categories of distraction or inattention. So, Bhaktivinoda in other places explains this. He said, in the heart of a materialist, there will never be attachment for the holy name. It can't manifest because of these reasons. Does that make sense? Of course you might say, but won't I purify myself of these desires if I chant? Yes, but you have to chant with the desire to purify yourself. Otherwise there'll be indifference. Or, worse, they'll be chanting with the desire to get these things. Hare Krishna, please Krishna, give me this, give me that. Material things, I'll be asking for material things, and that's also considered an offense to ask Krishna for anything material, unless it's for your service, for your purification in some way. You might say, Krishna, help me, I'm sick. That's okay, because you want to use your body for service. Yes? Hopeless cases, I'll read that sentence again, it's kind of nice. They are sometimes, these are the people that imitate, they are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms, like they seem to be shadow symptoms reflected off real Vaishnavas. Something's actually going on genuine. Yet, if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. So, when you get initiated, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. Because if you do those things, it's going to ruin your japa. It's going to ruin your japa. You're pouring dirt, you're taking a bath and pouring dirt. So, in one lecture, Prabhupada said, these four principles, they're not in and of themselves spiritual principles. They're principles of piety upon which you must live your life so that you'll be able to chant purely. Without these, your chanting is compromised. Of course, by chanting, you will be able to follow these principles, but it goes back to the same point. we have to be willing. This is to know the goal and willing to achieve it. So maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm not against it. I'm not antagonistic. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, the Prabhupada says, you might not be able to follow right away, but as long as you're not against the principle, you're open to it, then you're good, because you'll eventually come to it. That's the idea. But if you say, this principle, I don't like it, or it's not right, we shouldn't do it, or I can't do it, that's going to compromise your chanting and you won't get the benefit. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying it's okay if you can't follow the principles, but I'm not saying if you can't follow them perfectly that you should stop chanting. You should chant with the desire to be able to follow. Because none of us Americans, I don't know about you in India, but none of us Americans grew up following any of these principles. Except, it was kind of our lifestyle. And Prabhupada said, it's the basis of materialistic civilization. It's the pillar. When I grew up in America, very few vegetarians. And everybody thought if you didn't eat meat, you'd have protein deficiency. That was the propaganda of the medical profession. So you go to school, you have the different food groups, fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, all that, and meat and dairy. And those food groups, those charts were made by the meat industry. And they made sure that that would go in school. So we were all brainwashed. So none of us grew up vegetarian. And I was raised in a religion where you drink wine as part of a ceremony. So I was drinking wine when I was like 8 years old or something. Not a lot, but some. So, firmly situated in Tamagun right from the beginning. And of course, growing up listening to all this Tamasic music and, But we're not hopeless cases. One time, some man was criticizing us. He was telling Prabhupada, your disciples, they don't have any culture, they don't, they do everything wrong. And Prabhupada said, yes, I know. He obviously knew. He's with us all the time. He said, but they have one good quality. They'll do anything I say. And one of big acharyas in Gaudiya Math, he said something really amazing about us. He said, in all of Gaudiya Math, we've never seen any disciples with so much faith in their guru as your disciples have in you. So we've never seen that. So that confirmed what Prabhupada said. My disciples will do anything that they, I guess the disciples of those gurus wouldn't do anything. Or maybe there's some condition. I don't know. I can't say. But he was saying that faith, that Prabhupada say, go here, and we just do it, You, and you, go to this country. But Prabhupada, we don't have any money. Go. Okay, we're going. It was like that kind of faith. So, no one, because when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta sent his devotees to London, they were getting money every month, So no one ever saw that kind of faith before. So, we may be what we are, but we had this faith and willingness, and so the holy name could purify us. And we weren't trying to show off some ecstatic symptoms to get some cheap admiration. Okay, this is the last paragraph of the purport, and then we'll have some questions. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. Oh no, another qualification. You have to be friendly to everyone. Oh Prabhu, that's impossible. So-and-so Prabhu, I can't be friendly to him. He's so this or that. Maybe, if your rounds aren't good, it's because you're not friendly to everybody. And we said the other day, there's another problem. The devotees you don't like, they're going to be in the spiritual world when you get there. So what are you going to do? Change your mind? Oh, if you're here, send me back? No. So Prabhupada was joking, you better learn to get along with him, because they're going to be up there. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations, without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Yeah, see, that's the problem. You could relish something, like I'm going to relish that you're all thinking I'm a great devotee, but I can't relish the transcendental taste of the name, because I'm trying to relish that. So I cheat myself, isn't it? If I don't chant purely, I cheat myself. If I chant with some material desire, I cheat myself. And Krishna's like, okay, you want that, you know what, you want liberation? Okay, take it. You want sense gratification? All right, take it. Go in my garage, it's over there. It's in the bottom of the pile of things I threw away. Go take it, you can have it. But you won't get love, right? So you cheat. So we cheat ourselves. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, or unconsciousness, etc., is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with the pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path back to home will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. Now, here's something really important. What did Prabhupada say? Even these people can be rectified by the pure devotee. All right, so look in the mirror and tomorrow morning and tell yourself, I'm the one who's supposed to rectify them. You're all thinking that Prabhupada's talking about himself, right? They can be rectified by a pure devotee. You're all thinking, well, it's not me that's going to rectify them. No, Prabhupada's talking about you, believe it or not. How can I say that? Because Prabhupada said it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we require pure devotees to spread this movement. So if you become a pure devotee, then you very easily can inspire people by your association. Just by seeing you, they'll be inspired. What to speak of hearing you. So that's very important. The job is not left for others. It's for each one of us to be pure. And the more pure we are, the more we can change people's hearts. Sometimes Prabhupada would change hearts just by people seeing him. That was enough. You know that shloka, seeing the Ganges for a long time will purify you, but seeing a devotee immediately purified. So that can happen also for you. I was talking to a disciple, and her husband's kind of in and out of Krishna consciousness, not that committed. And then they went one sannyasi came, and he said, when the sannyasi walked in the room, he completely changed. And now he's chanting 16 rounds. Like, wow. That's amazing, right? This person is like hovering, not really committed, and as soon as the sannyasi walks in, he felt something, some of his Krishna consciousness, and he decided to chant 16 rounds. That's amazing, right? So potentially we all can do that. Or at least we're all supposed to do that. That was Prabhupada's idea. When Prabhupada began his mission, his idea was to create pure devotees. And it'd be a whole revolution of pure devotees. And I was always looking for this figure, and Prabhupada said 1% Krishna consciousness. 1% of the population is Krishna conscious, that will change the whole world. How much is 1% of a billion? 700,000? We're in India, you should have this in 3 seconds. 1% of 7 billion is 700,000. 700,000 people. That's all we need.
7 million.
70 million. We have a controversy here. 700,000, 7 million, or okay, we'll let you use your phones. I need an authoritative answer. 1% of 7 billion. 70 million. Do I have a second on 70 million? You a math major? Yeah, okay, 2. 70 million. All right, so we need 70 million devotees. If there's 70 million pure devotees, the world will change. That was Prabhupada's statement. 1%, if 1% becomes Krishna conscious, the whole world will change. But we actually have to be Krishna conscious, not just fake it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have some homework tonight. You have to figure out how to become Krishna conscious to be part of the 1%. It's going to create the revolution. It's going to change the world. Wouldn't you like to change the world? Yeah, sooner the better, right? Because the way it's going, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, this world is so bad. If I die today, it'd be a relief. It's like, it's so bad. It's like, if I die today, what's the big loss, I won't have to go through all the traffic today and eat vegetables that are full of pesticides and walk down the street with people smoking and talking. It's like so bad. So who wouldn't want to change it? I'm not suicidal, don't worry. I don't seriously think that way, but it's like, I especially think that way when I sit in the traffic. Because that doesn't make sense to me, all that traffic. It's like, how did we end up like this? And what's it going to be like in 20 years? Right? That's just like, where is it going? Yeah. Okay, so you have any questions, comments, arguments?
Saying should be friendly to all. Should be friendly to all.
Friendly to everyone, yeah. The non-devotees also.
Yeah,
Even to Donald Trump. You could be friendly to him also. The point is, a devotee doesn't hate anybody. Friendly doesn't mean you have to embrace a tiger, but a devotee doesn't hate anybody. So friendly means you're their well-wisher, yes.
Because if they are friendly, then they want to associate with us, then they
No, friendly means you're their well-wisher. You want to give them Krishna, you help them, you don't hate them, you don't discriminate, you don't judge. Oh no, I'm not going to give you Krishna because I don't like your jacket, or something like that. You live on the wrong street. You're merciful, without judgment, that's what it means. But friendly in the sense of intimate, that's reserved for devotees. Okay, we have to go man, woman, otherwise we could be considered prejudiced. And of course, we know Hare Krishna devotees love women, right? Actually, Manu Samhita says, where women are honored, there will be, Goddess of Fortune will live, right? So, I think if you want to raise funds, make sure the women are honored, and money, Lakshmi will just overflow, right? Actually, you can quit your job, just honor your wife. There'll be no financial problem. You guys haven't figured this out yet. You're so macho, you haven't figured it out.
It doesn't work.
He said it doesn't work. The part of honoring your wife doesn't work. But if you honored her, it would work. That's what he's saying. Yes. He tried to honor his wife, it didn't work. He can't do it. He tried, he failed. Yes?
You said that one of the qualifications to have a good job or to have its transcendental effect on you is to be friendly with everyone. But it has to be a two-way traffic.
No.
One-way traffic.
No. You're a devotee. You're merciful. You never stop giving mercy. But if they don't take it, then you give it to someone else.
It will not affect your job if they are like that.
Depends who you are and how you let it affect you. Devotee's merciful. He gives mercy to everyone. If they don't take it, he doesn't yell at them, doesn't get angry at them. He just gives it, looks for someone else to give it to.
No, that's what I mean. Will their negativity
Will it affect you? You mean if you try to share Krishna consciousness and they don't want it?
No. You're friendly with them, but they are not interested.
Yeah.
So will that affect your...
Won't affect mine. I don't know if it'll affect yours.
No.
It's, I mean, it's not a... It might affect you psychologically, but spiritually it won't. So if it affects you psychologically, yeah, maybe it will affect your japa. But on a spiritual level, Krishna appreciates that you're trying to give Krishna consciousness. So you'll even if they don't take it, you get so much mercy for trying to give it. It'll actually help your japa. The more you try to give it, the more it helps. Even if they don't take it, that doesn't matter if they take it or not. But if you allow yourself to get depressed because they're not taking it, or feel offended because they're not taking it, that's another thing. That's another topic.
It's like artificial detachment is not good. So, let's say if I try to follow Ekadashi, if you're trying to...
I don't follow Ekadasi because it's too artificial for me to not eat grains.
So
Something
what
like that.
I'm saying is if you're at the current level which you're comfortable,
Mhm.
like going different levels of Ekadashi.
Yeah, like in ISKCON, Ekadasi became a feast day somehow or other. I can figure that one out. But
So,
yeah,
does it count to artificial detachment if you're trying to know the higher level?
okay. He's asking, is it artificial detachment if you're trying to do the higher level? Well, I think it's glorious if you're trying to do the higher level. And even if it's artificial, if you can do it, it's glorious. The idea of artificial would be something you can't maintain. And so it has negative repercussions. Because it's like you give up something and then you hanker for it because you gave it up. So next Ekadasi, you eat like a pig because the former Ekadasi you fasted. That would be artificial. But has that ever happened to anybody? Dwadasi, you pig out on Dwadasi. Yeah, and that would be another example. Like, okay, and we had talked about that the other day. That steadiness and balance is more important than doing artificial austerity and then pigging it. I stayed up all night. Well, what'd you do the next day? I slept all day. Then when I finally woke up, I ate because I fasted the day before. So that's not helpful for your spiritual life. But if it's artificial and you can maintain it, like you don't feel like doing it, but it's good and you can maintain it, that's great. So, artificial is an interesting word because we're all artificial. Like, I'm not going to chant tomorrow. Why not? Because I don't feel the bhav. And I don't want to be artificial. Vaidhi Bhakti is pretty artificial, isn't it? The alarm goes off early in the morning and you're not jumping out of bed. Your getting out of bed is kind of not spontaneous. It's forced. And then you chant your rounds and you'd rather do something else, like go back to sleep or something. So in that sense, you could say so much of it is artificial. And I have to go to Bhagavatam class and, I'm not that interested, whatever. So Vaidhi Bhakti is a little artificial.
Make it till you fake it kind of works.
Yeah, make it to you. Fake it till you make it, yeah. And then the idea is the attraction will come. So, at the same time, there are certain things which are not demanded of you, like staying up all night on Ekadasi or fasting completely. If you can do it, it's good, but it's not demanded of you. So some austerities, we don't have a choice, I was just reading today, it was amazing. I was reading all of Prabhupada's letters on Grihastha life. And there's one letter that really stood out. Because he was talking about whether or not to get married. He was talking to men, about sex desire. And he said, sometimes you have sex desire, but at the same time you don't want to get married. So he's saying for some men, you get married, you fulfill it. But for other men, he said, to just tolerate it. It's not like because he's a brahmachari, he has no desire. He just has a lot of tolerance. Because he feels it's a better way of life. So that's there also. Like, that could be considered artificial, but it's something he wants to do, and he has the power to do it. So he tolerates it. So that's an important point. Because a lot of times, when we have a desire, we think, well, I have the desire, so I have to give into it. But you don't have to. If you feel it would be better not to give into it, you can control it. It just requires tolerance. Right? So like you see a devotee who may be very controlled, and you think, oh, he's naturally controlled. May not be. He just may be very determined to control himself. And it's very artificial for him, but he does it. He forces himself. Right? In the morning, 100 hits with the shoes, and at night, 100 hits with the broomstick. In his head, he's forcing himself. Because he wants to stay on the straight path. And he's weak, so he forces himself. So that's the strength. When you don't have the strength to withstand the material desire, your strength is to tolerate it. And then you determine how much can I tolerate and how intent I am on tolerating. And then you make your choice. This ashram or that ashram, this pizza or that chapati or whatever. You make your choices on what you need, what you can tolerate, what you can't. So there's going to be something artificial. But if it's too artificial, you can't maintain it. Is that okay? Yeah. So I would say, Vaidhi sadhana is pretty much fake it till you make it. Until there's some attraction. And so in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, there may not be a lot of attraction, but so you're relying more on determination. And later in Krishna consciousness, you get attraction. So that's why Utsaha Nishtaya, that's the first verse. It's not the last verse. Because by the last verse, you don't need the first verse. You're already spontaneous. So why do you need be enthusiastic? Why do I have to tell you to be enthusiastic? You're at Radhakund now, in consciousness or physically. And you're way beyond the need to be enthusiastic. You're merged in the mellows of rasa. So when you ask someone to be enthusiastic, that's because they're not. Right? Okay, everyone, let's do Sankirtan. I don't want to go there. Okay, everyone after me. Sankirtan! Say Sankirtan! So I'm trying to enthuse you. You're like, Sankirtan. Sankirtan. It's nectar! Say it's nectar. It's nectar. Right? But you have these brahmacharis, you can't keep them off the street. You don't have to say Sankirtan. By the time you say Sankirtan, they're already out the door distributing books. So that's for those who don't have enthusiasm, who don't have determination, don't have faith. That's the first verse. So in the beginning, you see, how did you become a devotee? Krishna got behind you and pushed you, with tridents. Well, actually I have a godbrother, he's really funny. He says, Durga has a trident, right? And she pushes you, and she says, did you get the point? Why, did you get it? This is the material world, So it's from behind, it's pushing us. Yeah, okay, I got the point. I got it. I'm moving to Krishna, right? But, yes? But, when you're more advanced, then you're being pulled by your taste. You don't need misery behind you because you have taste. So that's the fake it till you make it. The make it part is the taste. Then it's natural. And so the more you advance, the more the taste is there, and the more you're pulled by taste. There's a story Satchidananda Swami tells of this. I don't know who it was, some great writer or Thoreau or somebody. He had a calf. And the calf ran out of the barn, and he was trying to get the calf back into the barn. And he didn't know how to do it. He was behind the calf, pushing it. Pushing it. And the calf just wouldn't move. And then the cowherd lady came, the lady who took care of the cow. She goes, you don't know what you're doing, I'll show you. And she put her hand in some milk, and then put the milk in the calf's mouth, and just walked back into the barn. So that's the taste. How you're pulled by taste. Even more than you're pushed by the trident. Right? Because even though we're pushed by the trident, sometimes we're stupid enough to figure out a way that the trident can't touch us. Right? Isn't it? So the pulling by attraction is stronger, ultimately, and it's the surefire way to do it, right? Raso, what is it? I got the raso home up so no. Raso varjam rasopiyasya. Yeah. And the purport Prabhupada said, this is the secret. You want to know the secret of advancement? It's taste. That's the secret. Don't tell anybody. Taste. You know, you should get together with your god brothers or your god sisters, and you should talk about Krishna. What about this? Today I was thinking of something. This is how my mind works, because I love to talk philosophy. I was thinking, who's better off? I was thinking about Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, and I was thinking, well, who's better off? Someone who's reading all of Prabhupada's books, read them all, is reading them again, listens to his lectures, but never takes Diksha, or someone who took Diksha from Prabhupada, but never read his books. Who's better off? So it's like a, Siksha, Diksha debate, because Shastra says you have to take Diksha. But we're a Siksha line, and Siksha is more important than Diksha. So can you go back to Godhead if you don't take Diksha? And if you just take Diksha, will Prabhupada save you? Or is the most important thing Siksha? So you could have a nice discussion just on this question, right? It'd be like very inspiring. So that's what we're supposed to do. Like, look at the philosophy, discuss it, relish it, think about it. And we get a lot of taste from doing those things. Posing, Prabhupada said this, and Buddy said that. How is it this? How is it that? Trying to understand, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said this, that's so interesting. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And then you'll be relishing. And that's one of the, what does Krishna say? Bodhiyantas parasparam. They discuss amongst themselves, and what? They feel happy, satisfied. Ramanti cha, tushanti cha, ramanti cha. Yes. Hear about Krishna. Sureshwara Prabhu is coming. He will do Prabhupada imitations. You don't have to ask him, he'll just do it. Perfectly. And you're not actually supposed to imitate your guru. It's not proper, but anyway. Sometimes he will do it just because it's dramatic. He once imitated Prabhupada at his initiation, and Prabhupada put out his beads to take. And Sureshwar said, I was dumbstruck. I didn't know what to do. Just was sitting with Prabhupada, and I was like this. Come, take your beads. You can ask him about initiation. He'll tell you that stuff. Come, take your beads. And he's shaking the beads. And he kind of woke him up. And he'll do the imitation. Yes, who's next? We have to take turns, right? We have to be equal. Sama. I'm Sama Darshan. I see all of you equal.
So, do we analyze ourselves before faking, like to know that whether we are faking to become glorious or we are...
Yes. Yeah, you should. Yeah, we should. Should we analyze ourselves to know whether we're just chanting for honor or some alternate reason? Ulterior motive? Yeah, definitely. Because pure devotional service means to serve Krishna for his pleasure. So you have to be aware of your motive. It's kind of depressing once you become aware that actually everything we do is just to look good, but we still have to be aware of that. It's so much of what we do is to look good or impress others. And beginning of the solution is to be aware of when we're doing that.
So then we feel that we are faking it to get it, so that we attain it, then it is acceptable. And if we feel...
If the motive is good, if the motive is proper. Faking it would be, I'm not attracted, but I do it. But doing it with an ulterior motive, that's just cheating. It's not faking anymore. But even if I have the motive, let's say you say, oh, Krishna, I'm so bad. I just like being appreciated and honored, and respected. And everything I do is for honor and respect and appreciation. But at least don't do service for that reason, even though that desire is there. That should not be the motivating factor. It's like, okay, who wants to be a temple president? Me. Like, you want to serve? No, I want prestige. That's my motive. That's wrong, right? Okay, I want to be a temple president. No one wants to do it. I'll do it. I'm not qualified, etc. But I'm not doing it because I want to get the respect. I'm doing it because I want to please my guru. Even though I want respect, I know it's there, that anartha is there, but I don't want to do the service for that reason. You understand the difference? The desire is there, but that's not going to be what motivates me to do the service, right? It's like, who wants to do the service? And you're thinking, oh, if I do that service, everyone will think I'm great. I'll do it. We don't want to be like that. We want to be aware, oh, I have this service. I've just been asked to do this service, so we want this awareness. Oh, now that I'm doing this service, it's a big opportunity to get respect. So I want to make sure that I do the service only to please Guru and Krishna. Even though I want respect. I'm not saying I don't want respect. I do, but I'm not going to do the service for it. So that's the idea. The idea is that you can control your motive. You have to be aware of it, and then you can control it.
Even if the motive is articulate, we can change it.
Yes, definitely. You have to. You can change. You have to. We're not saying you change your desire overnight. You change the reason, the motive. We have so many material desires. So anartha nivritti, it's a process. And you come gradually through that when you tada rajas tamo bhava. When you overcome tamas and rajas, then you come to sattva. So it's a gradual process. But the motive with which you serve, you can control that immediately, even in the beginning. So that's where we start. Vijay Lakshmi is dying to ask another question. Yes. Yes, doctor. How can I help you? What disease can I cure you from?
You just spoke about this Diksha and...
Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru.
Yeah, and reading Prabhupada's book,
Yes.
but not taking it. Bhagavatam says the spiritual transcendence starts with initiation. So what we are doing now goes to waste?
Good question. Before initiation, is everything you're doing now go to waste? Definitely not. And Prabhupada said the real initiation is when you accept the Guru. And, Siksha Gurus and instructors, so, there's definitely a connection when you're hearing. But at some point, you want to formalize your vows and, then, join the club, kind of. But not prematurely. That's a mistake. So, yes and no. Yes, you should aspire to be initiated. And yes, that is part of the process. And yes, you are making advancement before you're initiated because you're connected to Prabhupada or your spiritual master. And the process is working. But to perfect that process, you should get initiation, but not before you're ready. Because there's no great credit, to getting it and you're not following. And Prabhupada used to say, when people couldn't follow, he would say, why did you take initiation if you can't follow? So that's another way of saying, I'm not forcing you to do this. Why did you decide to do it? I'm not forcing you. You decided to do it, but you weren't ready to follow. So why did you decide if you weren't ready? You should wait till you're ready because you're promising. So you don't want to promise and not follow. So sometimes devotees think, no, but because Shastra says I should get initiated, then I should do it sooner than later. Even I'm not ready. That's not the right thinking. Yeah, you should do it sooner than later, but not when you're not ready. There's no great credit for that. Sometimes it's worse, because then you have to deal with the guilt and shame of not following your vow. Whereas before you're initiated, you didn't officially make the vow. Just like when we drive here, we drive by all the places where the marriage is going, right? So I said, Sureshwar, what's a big marriage here in Bangalore? He goes, 5,000 people. I'm like, 5,000 people? He goes, yeah, 5,000. And they go, and 6 years later they get divorced after marrying in front of 5,000 people? That's hard to do. If you marry in front of 3, it's a lot easier, right? So the idea is you're taking a vow in front of all the devotees, the deities, It's like, okay, you've already vowed internally. You're already committed. You're already connected to your guru. It's all there. The holy name is working. That's the real initiation, the internal connection. You're hearing. But you formalize it in front of all the Vaishnavas. This connection is real. This is what I'm doing. So it's an important step. And then your guru connects you, accepts you. Okay. And you accept him. It's easier for the guru to accept you than for you to accept the guru, because you don't tell the guru what to do, he tells you what to do. So that's hard, isn't it? To accept someone who's going to tell you what to do, and he's going to tell you to do things you don't want to do. That's not easy. That's the difficult part of being a disciple. Sometimes you'll be told something that's really difficult to accept. Right? But you have to do it. 10 rupees for every... After the third question is 10 rupees. The fourth question is 1,000. The fifth question, 10,000. That's how I support myself for questions. Okay, yes. We'll give you a discount tonight because you didn't know. Yes.
If someone feels that they're going to kick the bucket any time, we don't know.
Should they get initiated?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if they're 93, but I don't know about 55, you might live a little longer, right? If at your age it's easier to commit to the vows because, that youthful passion and your life is settled, so it's less of a dilemma for someone your age. Yeah, there was a devotee, it's a nice story. His mother was so against Krishna consciousness. And then she became ill. And she knew she was going to die. And she became a devotee and got initiated. Like the last days of her life, she got initiated. So yes.
But you don't need to go through those rituals. If you don't have the time,
You don't have to go through the...
those various rituals.
Shastrically, no, but maybe practically in this community, that's what they require. So, but maybe you can go through them all like in a day instead of, a few years. That's also possible. Like you're chanting 16 rounds, you've been reading Prabhupada's books for years. You've already done all that, basically. So, I've never taught. You could answer that question. You can ask him. He'll tell you. He does bhakti. You do bhakti vriksha, right? You know the system. I don't know the system. But what I do know is that nobody should feel pressured to take diksha before they're ready. Nobody should feel pressured to take diksha from any particular guru. That can be problematic. And you should always understand, no matter who you take diksha from, you can have so many Siksha gurus to guide you. Right? Because sometimes your diksha guru is not available. But you can have so many Siksha gurus. And you can have very deep relationships with your Siksha guru. And they can give you shelter and so forth. Yes? And definitely, before you take initiation, you should firmly have a relationship with Prabhupada. And Sureshwar will tell you more about that when he comes. It's very important. You don't want to establish a relationship with your potential Diksha Guru without firmly establishing your relationship with Prabhupada. Because your Diksha Guru is representing Prabhupada. So you like in the Disciples Course. It's interesting about the Disciples Course. I didn't know this. I should have known it. But somehow I didn't know it. I don't know why. That when you choose a guru, they want you to take the disciple course before you choose to make sure you're making an informed choice. So just to understand a little more about the guru-disciple. And, because some people will think, well, grihastas can't be gurus. so that they might have chosen that devotee to be their guru, but they thought, he's a grasta, so he's not a guru. Or I have to choose this guru because that's the guru that most of the devotees have chosen, so he must, So they give you that kind of vision and who Prabhupada is and like that, so you can make decision which is more informed. So that's interesting. They want you to take the disciple course before you...
I've taken.
Yeah. I mean everybody. Before you... all right, so that you say, can you be my guru? I'll say, yes, but take the disciple course, and after it, confirm that, you may realize, no, I realize something, it would be better I take from this person, whatever. So, you make the decision. And no one should make the decision for you. Oh, you should take from this guru. We're not supposed to do that. Sometimes we do it because we're excited about our guru and we think, you would be so happy if you had him as your guru and you'd be part of our family. And all of that may be true, but that has to be your decision, right? They can introduce you. Oh, my guru's coming. Here's his book, or here are his lectures. You might like that. But they can't say, here's his book, you should definitely seriously consider being his disciple because he's really good. No. Just listen to his lectures, see if you like it. He inspires me. That's as far as we should go. And the disciple has to make that choice voluntarily. And in the past, that hasn't always happened. But that's the direction we want to move. And that's what the disciple course is about, right? And you're so fortunate that Sureshwara Prabhu is coming because he'll help you understand your relationship with Prabhupada and how important that is. Especially for those who are not initiated, to establish that first before you choose a guru. And I'm happy to inform you, there are, I think, maybe 7 Grihastha gurus in ISKCON. Which definitely proves if you're a Grihastha, you can be a guru. Actually, in days of yore, sannyasis were not gurus, only Grihasthas. Because the Grihasthas stayed in the ashram and the sannyasis traveled. So the Grihasthas trained the disciples. So, interesting. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Math, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it changed. Usually, when you took sannyas, that meant you could take disciples. That was kind of like your authorization. But I have sannyasi godbrothers who sometimes will send their disciples to me to deal with things that sannyasis shouldn't deal with. So, the grihasthas have some experience in grihastha life, so they can help with that. I just wanted to let you know I am bona fide, even though I don't wear saffron. Although once upon a time I did wear saffron. But I'm still bona fide, just so you know. I'm not advertising for disciples, but I just want you to know. Grihasthas are bona fide. Not just me. Grihasthas are bona fide. They can be bona fide gurus, even though we're fallen in the well of household life. I'm only joking. We're fallen into the well of love of Krishna. Yes. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Prabhu, you said that the 4 regulative principles are not really devotional principles, they're principles of piety.
Yes. Prabhupada said.
Yeah. So these principles, when it comes to, there is no relaxation in terms of whether we follow them or not. It's a complete no-no. We can't do those things. How does it work with other principles like, say, truthfulness, humility? Because we're waiting for them to manifest.
Oh, yes. Well, he's asking, okay, the 4 regulative principles, you just follow them. You have to follow them fully. Of course, you can get married, and so some adjustment is there. But what about other principles? How important are they and demanding are they? Well, I think if we went through the whole list, we would find that They're all necessary. But humility is essential. But do you have the choice to be completely humble? You have the choice to act humbly, but not necessarily be humble. So my answer to that would be, yes, we have to follow them as fully as we can follow them, at least in practice. And then try to adopt the mentality. Of course, you could argue, someone would argue, but just surrender to Krishna and those qualities will come and don't worry about it. But it's a little bit of both. You should worry about it because it's part of surrender to have those qualities, you know. So there's some qualification of that surrender to Krishna and these qualities will come. How do you surrender? Well, you have to be humble in practice, and you have to be forgiving, and you have to be compassionate. But it's more of a practice than a full embodiment of that quality. So that's how I understand it. Yes, you should fully practice, as far as possible, practice those qualities, 26 qualities of devotee. And they will manifest they will fully manifest, but now they're manifesting in practice, Vaidhi Bhakti. And Prabhupada has said as such, see how those qualities are developing. In my understanding, would see how you're practicing them. If you read Prabhupada's letters, he's always guiding devotees how to behave, how to act. Be nice to your god brothers, be understanding, be tolerant. His letters are so interesting because it's all real world practical stuff, and you can see how he's applying Krishna consciousness. So as far as I've read and understood, he's asked us to develop those qualities, but we didn't have to vow to follow them. But, Shishashtakam's there, so tolerance, humility, are essential elements. So Mahaprabhu is merciful. Even though we're not perfect, we can chant. But you want to chant perfectly, there has to be a lot of humility and a lot of tolerance. Right? So if you look at your question that way, how to become perfect, then the answer is perfectly follow all of those. And by perfectly following all of those qualities will perfectly manifest. Where you don't have to practice them anymore. They will be you, part of you. That's who you are. But it's not who we are now. So we practice it. Right? Then as you advance, let's say you practice humility, as you advance, you will develop the attitude of humility by practicing it. It will grow on you, so to speak. But it starts with the practice. Cleanliness. Maybe you don't like to bathe a lot. Will that affect you? Yeah, a little bit. So you do it, even though it's winter, you don't like to bathe, but you do it because you have to. And then you feel the effect, and then your mind changes. Oh, this is good, I like to bathe. I feel better when I'm clean. Like that. If you're humble, you'll feel better, and you want to be more humble. So the practice gives you the taste and the ability to do it. Anyway, try it out, see what happens. Okay, everyone's going to try tomorrow to be humble and see how you like it. See if it helps you. You only have to do it for a day, don't worry. If you don't like it, you can go back to your normal state. Just put your ego on pause, and you can pick it up later and try it and see how it works for your japa. It will definitely help you. I guarantee it. Okay, we should stop, right? Because you're all hungry, right? Raise your hand if you're hungry. That means everyone's hungry. So they're afraid to admit it. If it were 8 a.m, no problem. You'd all raise your hand. Okay. So I heard a rumor we're doing Bhagavatam class tomorrow. Is that true? Is it true or false? True. Satyam he. So I'll be here tomorrow at 8 for Bhagavatam if you want to come. And I guess the verse after that will be 12, right? What's verse 12? Who knows?
Tat
Yes,
Shraddhadana. Tat Shraddhadana.
Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya. Faith. We'll get to talk more about faith tomorrow. Jnana Vairagya, and more about Jnana and Vairagya. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanand. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Indian time. You're invited. You're all invited. Spread the word. I didn't tell anybody because I just found out about an hour and a half ago that we're having class tomorrow.